food. Thank you so much for that. Thanks for the work you and your colleagues do. It keeps a light in many a window when you make sure that these men and women who have been in and are in prison have a voice from the outside, a friend in the distance who come and try to attend to them. I've been producing documentaries for 50 years, actually. This could well be the 300th or 400th or maybe more documentary, but none has ever moved me as much as this one. I've done them on every subject. I actually did the first documentary ever done about women in prison at the women's prison in Miami 40 years ago. And I've done several others with the producer of this film, whom I brought in to do it for us. But I've never done one that has touched me so much. And you came to see the film, not to hear me. I'll just give you a moment of introduction to why I did this. I've been flying into LaGuardia for years. And you can look down over the right wing of the American Airlines flight coming in from a certain configuration, and you can see Rikers down there. You can't see anybody in Rikers, but you can see the island. The same thing is true in San Francisco. I used to fly into San Francisco, and I could look out the left wing and see Alcatraz. And it hit me that America's two great ports, gateways to America from the east and the west, had prisons awaiting the visitor. There was Rikers, a penal colony, right 2 miles or 3 miles from where we are now, and there was Alcatraz. Alcatraz has been closed. Rikers has not. It should be closed. And so one day I came in, picked up my car at the parking lot, was driving in, and NPR, National Public Radio, WNYC, had a 5 o'clock broadcast, news broadcast, and they broadcast yet another brutality at Rikers. It was the young man who committed suicide. Was sent right to Khalif Browder, right. He was, you know the story. And I thought, I've heard these stories. This controversy has been growing about Rikers. And there have been some excellent, exquisite, powerful investigative reports by the New York Times, by New York Magazine, by the New Yorker magazine, by the Marshall Project, which is a new on-site website devoted to criminal justice. You can find themarshallproject.org. You should be checking in with it in your work. But all of these stories, brilliant stories, and they've already won many awards, all of these stories, the experience of the inmates of necessity had been filtered through the journalists, because it's very, very difficult to do honest stories from inside prison, because there's so much control and so many minders and so many taboos and things you can't do. It's very hard to get a story about inmates that are unfiltered by the journalists and of course then by the editors. So I wanted to hear. It hit me. I was driving down FDR Drive when I heard the story of Khalif Browder, and I thought, got to hear from the prisoners themselves, from the inmates themselves. Can't go in to do that, so I raised the money for this, which I have to do for every documentary. I called this terrific producer who worked with me, and we put a team together. We tracked down 100 former inmates, interviewed all of them. From those, chose 12 whose stories represented the arc of the experience from entry to release at Rikers. We shot 10 to 12 hours of interviews with each former detainee. And then I edited what you will see together to present an arc from entry to exit of what happens at Rikers. We showed the film. The first group to screen it, as you're screening it today, was Glenn Martin. Glenn Martin's group is working to close Rikers. I can't think of the name. It's Just Leaders USA. Yeah. So Glenn has spent 11 years in prison himself and is leading this movement. I spoke at their recent dinner. I've never seen, this is the most dynamic young African-American man I have met since I worked with Martin Luther King and those people when I was in the White House working on the civil rights legislation, the voting rights legislation with President Johnson. Glenn and his group are determined to close Rikers. And we showed the film to them first because so many of them had the experience. And when the lights came up, and we want the lights to be turned out when we show the film, when the lights came up, Glenn turned around and said to the group in the room, but to really no one in particular, everything in there is true. And my heart leapt because I knew we got it right. We did the film, not necessarily for television. We did the film as a tool for people like you who are working. Someone said a moment ago that the government's now owned by the right wing and Donald Trump, and we have to work locally. I've never believed that more in my life than I do right now. The human body grows cell by cell, organ by organ. That's the way social movements grow. If you will go to the New York Times yesterday, they've got a wonderful feature on marches that changed the world and changed America. And in every one of them, those marches, whether it was the women's suffragettes in 1913 or Martin Luther King in 1963 at the march where I was at that memorable day, it was person by person, effort by effort, cell by cell. And so we produced this film so that groups like yours around the country can use it, not just to see it, but to remember who it is we're talking about. To keep in mind, people become statistics when they become more than two of them. And we want people to keep reminding, what is this move? What is the incarceration crisis about? Well, Joe, you could tell us without a film. And by the way, welcome home. I've been privileged to meet many like you since I was working on this film, and I have to salute the courage and the character and the conviction that you bring back from prison to do what you're going to do with your life. But we've moved we're going to release the film next spring for the nation. It will air simultaneously in cities all over the country. But we moved up our release date in New York because of two things. One, there is this official commission that has been organized to study what to do about Rikers. And Justice Lippman, former chief judge of the Supreme Court in New York, is leading it. I spent a lot of time with him. We screened it for the commission. Every member of the commission was there. They think the film is the most powerful testimony that they can present for the case they're going to make for what to do about Rikers. And that's one way the film will get used. But we are working with scores, it'll be hundreds by February 15th, the 1st of March, around the country that will use the film. Before and during and after it airs nationwide on the 3rd of May. So don't think of this as one screening, don't think of this as a one-time experience. Think of it as a tool in your hand and a tool in the hands of people like you all over the country, because we have incarceration is a crisis for everyone, every single individual who is in that system. But we have a national crisis now with 2.3 million people in our jails and prisons, and very little help for them when they come out, with an enormous cost to that individual and to their families. This is a national crisis. And as Ben Martin said when we screened the film at Union Theological Seminary back in October, Glenn said, every jail is Rikers, and Rikers is every jail. I think this is film. You're seeing an introduction that was done mainly for New York. I've done another one that will go out with the film that begins with the national crisis and how what is being done across every jail in America, every prison in America is packed. And many of them are, as Rikers was, a citadel of cruelty, a culture of brutality, and much of it is just goes unreported. So we hope this serves as a wake-up call, but we hope it serves primarily as an instrument in the hands of people who are trying to bring justice to all of these people. I'm so grateful to you for coming to give us a chance to show it to you. As John said, and John, thank you for arranging this again. If any of you want a DVD or 2 DVDs for your work that you're doing, you just have to let us know. How to get it is on the chart, and we'd be glad to give you a copy. You can also go to, we have a very good website. You can go to billmoyers.com, and in the little box up there, you can type in Rikers, and the film comes up. You can watch it on your computer. You have to put in a password, but we'll give you that. There will be no password after it's released. But this is a film for the men and women who are the unfortunate prisoners of our system that we have failed so far to humanize and civilized and normalized, so that those who go there come back rehabilitated with opportunity and chances, and not with the memories that hang like dark, ugly icicles on the edge of their consciousness. So thanks for coming. I can't stay. I have another screening at 3 o'clock way downtown, but I've seen it, don't worry. And I know you're going to have a discussion. I wish I were here for that. But again, God bless all of you, and thank you very much for taking precious time out of your life and your energy and your resources to give to the people like those you're about to see. Thank you.